Hi everybody, it's 10 o'clock on the 10th, for the 10th, for the 10th. You're in my back garden listening to the birds as I look at some newspapers, including the Financial Times Weekend Edition. Who controls the internet? They ask. That's a story by Misha Glenny. If you haven't read it, you should, especially if you do things like Google. Talk about script kids, talk about cyber attacks shutting down infrastructure in the United States. General Alexander sounds the alarm, pointing out that Pentagon is probed 250,000 times a day. An hour, rather. 6 million times a day. People try to break in. Yep, they're trying to break in. And you gotta watch them. People that are out there on the street, people using handheld devices. The real fear is that the internet's slipping from U.S. control. Military and law enforcement agencies such as the FBI enjoy access to places like the back end of RIM, the back end of Google. China thinks you should take a test. You should take a test before you use the internet. Next generation. Jennifer O'Connell might say you may need a test for proper usage. She argues curse words have lost a lot of their shock value. I still don't subscribe to some people who all they seem to do is go for the C word or the F word, and that's the reach of their English language skills for exclamatory comments. Sunday isn't supposed. I guess they could say things are all fucked up, but they don't. The front page of the paper. Instead, Pat Leahy, he's the political editor, points out that the EU is going to scrutinize every detail of the Irish new budget plan. Further indication that the meltdown is going to continue affecting Irish for many, many years, at least 4 years. How to deal with it? Well, you could raid the pension bank. That's Richard Curran's idea. It's highly likely public servants retiring in 15 years are going to get much smaller pensions. That's going to impact on me, especially if I want to retire, because I'll get into that in a minute. But in the meantime, if you're trying to get upskilled, good stuff over here by Martha Kearns. She points out free innovation training at DCU, and down the street, 100 former Dell workers may undertake a franchise course in Limerick Institute Technology. Nicola Cook's got that idea. So what happens if you're a pensioner? Well, older people are going to work longer. Generational conflicts are going to emerge. And McKennedy, she's a personal finance correspondent at Sunday Business Post, says that's going to happen. Adrian Weckler's there with some tips. If you want to stay older, wiser, and techier, then you might need big fat things like big icons on the iPad, big keys on the keyboard, big controls on your HD movie maker. Adrian writes some good stuff there. He's Adrian Weckler on Twitter. That's the story. Political consensus is needed for our survival, says Tom McGurk. He claims that political leaders need to get serious and recognize the problem is actually outside of Ireland. It's not just what they look like inside of Ireland, but you can't go showing up for an interview and sound like you're incoherent. You gotta have a strategy that makes sense. It's now high time, he says. McGurk says political classes need to understand the audience judging them is well outside the country. There's financial markets everywhere. And who's going to judge what happens to Ireland? This came through my door. Seamus Healy, general election candidate. John McGuinness is putting out a newsletter without the Fianna Fáil decals on the bottom. Manny McGraw's a local guy who may start the general election by voting against the government. Leo Varadkar has an idea. Instead of drawing out the agony for the next 6 years, why not deal with the deficit now? His idea? 5 to 6 billion euro adjustment. And he's right about one thing. That would reduce the GDP deficit to a more manageable level for financial analysts to look at it. Public sector has to wake up to the reality. So says the editorial. Now I'm a public sector worker. And here's the story. There are negotiations that are supposed to fall on the heels of the Croke-Part agreement. They're just starting. They're just starting. Teachers Union of Ireland implacably opposed to members working an extra hour a week. I don't get that. They're going to do some things to get recovery happening. It means giving in. Front page of the Irish Times shows the result of the Irish-Russian match in the Aviva Stadium. Ireland lost. Trapattoni's plans are going to be changing. Inside this paper, it's a Saturday-Sunday edition. Living in a society where no one ever carries the can. Eddie Malloy writes the big picture. It's an opinion article. And his point is, nobody seems to take responsibility at the highest level of government for things going pear-shaped. Instead, Brian Cowan takes responsibility to serve out his term, which is kind of irresponsible, really. And what Malloy points out is Ireland's comparable to a country that's been involved in a needless war and lost. €50 billion deficit. It'll take 2 generations to clear the rubble. Good way of looking at it. And yet, the country doesn't want to enter a wartime footing. Instead, the bright side of life. Dead Cat Bounce is a spoof rock band that gets Kathy Foley's comedy piece in the Sunday Times. And then, this is a good read this week. Some stuff here about The Social Network by Brian Appleyard. I pointed out because I have students that are going to be having a look at Social Network, and it's important. Inside Culture magazine this week. Inside the Sunday Times, income tax may rise. Pressure rising for that local election. We're getting the flyers to the door right now, so it can't be far away. Very fragile state here in Ireland. Cutbacks alone won't bring growth, so says Damien Kybert in a business section of the Sunday Times. It's an entrenched policy here in Ireland, populist largesse, and as Kybert points out, it's really going to be hard to unseat that. Government has a fixation with cutback economics, grounded in, well, a lack of understanding about how the economy actually should work. Center of this paper, I said I wasn't going to show this. Liverpool rock band, 9-point penalty if they don't get their finances sorted out within, 10 days? That's John Henry. Transformed Boston Red Sox into a big player in the athletic space. In terms of transforming Ireland, Kathy Foley says there's a solution to a complex problem, or maybe not. Math advocates are working hard to convince students to stick with their subject, and then how do you do it? How do you make math more exciting? Well, there's several strategies. Ceci.ie points this stuff out at regular events that they hold, telling stories about history of mathematics, bringing in Irish connections to people, to the storyline of people making it successful, mathematically successful. Add some creative ideas to the debate, urges Matt Cooper in the comments section. Specifically, why should retired state employees continue to claim generous retirement incomes? We're just borrowing the money to pay for them right now. He's right about that. Frank Fitzgibbon, he's at Frank Sun-Times, gives you the final word on the perfect 10. It is 10, 10, 10, and it's 10, 10 almost. I've got to get off this recording session so I can get my pictures. Wear a tinfoil hat. Survive 10, 10. Make your cash stretch further. Niall Brady asked the experts how to do it. Really good advice. It came from askaboutmoney.com, including such things as switch discounters such as Lidl, Cook and Balk, join a public library, or learn how to download your stuff. Technology speaking, download your stuff. If you do it, and you upload your stuff to Video Land, here's some stuff inside the Sunday Times. YouTube Tools, it's called. Mike Peake writes the story. Gives you these little tips. Splice CD, iDesktop TV, Subu.com, QuietTube.com, CoolIris.com. Good stuff. Really good stuff. Technology, though, really good stuff here. These Chilean miners have been pulled out of the ground using an Irish bit. Probably didn't know that. Dan McDowell has a story. Really good technology story. Success story. Here, we have success in the back garden. We have green growth. And we have marigolds still for you guys who are slating me for buying them. I'm off to get my 10-10-10 photos. Check it out on flickr.com/photos/ISIS. Or check me out on Twitter. My nick there is topgold. Thanks for listening. See you next week. Bye for now.